Welcome to CF 2.0 Geek Out, where we deep dive into ClickFunnels 2.0 and how to use it to grow your funnel building business.
Hey, I'm Susan.
And I'm Andrea.
Come along with us as we learn and discover how to use the new ClickFunnels and how to make it bend to our will. Hey, we're here. I always try to time that button click there, and I had it, and then it failed me.
That's okay. I love it.
Okay. You guys got a little tiny sneak peek in that intro that we have a guest joining us today, Dan Havey. Yeah,
wherever you are.
We've been, I think, teasing this for a couple weeks about having Dan join us, and we're going to talk about flex containers, which are a game changer. So we're looking forward to that. I think there's no housekeeping stuff that we need. I think just a reminder, we're going to be gone at FHL next week. And so we will not go do our official Geek Out episode on Friday, but Andrea and I and Dan, if you want to too, you can. And anyone else in this group, you can jump in and go live in the group or post a video or a picture.
What I was hoping
I'm the group with stuff of FHL.
What I was hoping I'd get out of you guys next week is that you'd be my roving reporters out in the field.
Yes.
And you would call in twice a day. We could go live into both of our groups and just tell people what's going on at Funnel Hacking Live, especially the important stuff about 2.0 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. And I think too, we had a kind of an all call for everyone of 2.0 sightings, examples of 2.0, those brave souls who have built it, and just some examples there I think would be awesome.
Yeah, 100%. So you will hear from us. You will be seeing us, just not in our official Friday live. Yeah. And then I think that was it. I've been making, if you saw my geek session yesterday, the first 20 minutes are just a nightmare of me dealing with tech. But if you got through that, skip through that. And then I made some big progress on the blog. Andrea, I don't know if you saw it. We have 5 official blog posts now on our hub.
Amazing.
blog, content YouTube posts. So that is coming along. There's a lot of new things. I don't think we're going to talk about really any of them today, but we're seeing a lot of cool things popping up in the back end of 2.0. They kind of just randomly show up, and sometimes on your pages, as Dan has told us, he just randomly has something show up on his page. And that means I think that we've seen enough that we can reasonably suspect that they are actually going to have funnels ready for launch day.
Well, they're going to attempt. Let's just couch that a little bit. I think they will be able to say with truth that it is available. I think that is probably a more accurate way to say that.
I'd say it'd still be considered a very beta type experience.
It might be a rollout process and all that. As I said to somebody earlier today, I suspect that at this point they have multiple contingency plans for October 4th. As far as what's going to be available.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably true.
I don't. ClickFunnels is not really a contingency plan type of organization.
All or nothing.
So I don't think. Yeah, that doesn't quite resonate as truth for me.
I would think that the contingency plan is we're launching, but you don't get funnels yet.
All I know is Russell jumped the gun by a year on the initial announcements. So,
again, I really have to stress. All of you guys are. Have been doing pretty sophisticated builds. And I do think that, again, it's this healthy tension between the business needs to have here's where we go to market and these are our dates and there's marketing plans around it and excitement and traffic and all that stuff. And then dev, the nature of dev doesn't work that way. It is I'm going to run into issues. Everything is an ish. Don't make any commitment, And so it's just this healthy tension. And, when it comes to the king of marketing battling, you know what I mean? A pretty talented developer, but still the king of marketing with a talented developer. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know that I'd want to be in that room for that conversation.
Well, time will tell. We will see what happens. But today, let's talk about flex containers because and just FYI, I've now officially completed a funnel hub build in 2.0. And I'll just quickly go through my experience, I got it done, but not without a lot of issues of like clicking on things and them not working the way I expected them to, not knowing how to use certain features, making small mistakes that I've had to like reach out to the support team and be like, I don't really know what's going on. And they're like, oh, well, you just need to do this. And so it's really just a lack of understanding how it works. And so I know all of that will be helped when they have like documents. You know, like we know ClickFunnels 1.0, if you have a question about how something works in 1.0, you can go to the help docs. They don't have that yet for 2.0. So it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of just experimenting with things. So it took me a little bit of time, but it's done. And crossing our fingers that nothing on it like breaks or randomly shows up on pages or disappears on pages while they're seemingly tweaking some things in the back end and adding more stuff. So just that's been my experience. I think it's doable, but it's still going to take some time to learn. I think there's a learning curve, definitely. Dan and I were talking about this yesterday, or I don't know, was it yesterday? There's like kind of a high learning curve for 2.0 at this moment. And I think it's because they just lack the support and the tutorials and the documents needed for it.
And there's just a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is probably a level 10 complexity in order of magnitude over what you had for 1.0. It's just that's how much more stuff is in here.
Yeah.
So some people, I have no doubt, are going to look at it and go, wow, that's just too much. I'm going back to 1.0. Okay, fine.
Right.
Well, and honestly, it's fine to work with.
I think to your point, I mean, Susan, for you to say that you did not have struggle, right? And you were an expert, masterful ClickFunnels builder, right? I mean, without question, you wouldn't say that, but I
mean that I did have struggle.
You are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, this is not yet ready for somebody who's not willing to put in the legwork to learn and maybe has some degree of a base of funnel understanding. Now, hopefully in our community, we can start having build parties and help to overcome that stuff. But I do think it's like, set your expectations that this is you'll be on a learning curve.
Yeah. And I think that's really the intention. The only intention that we have here is we're not, putting down the software at all. We're not bagging on it in any way. It's really just like, have the right expectations. Because if you go in with the right expectations of like, this might take me a little bit longer than it does in 1.0 because there's more to it. There's more moving parts. I don't know exactly how it's working yet. Then you'll be fine. And then like to that point, I made a Loom video and submitted it to the team, and I submitted it to like through the channel of the team. And I believe I may have submitted this video directly to a team member via Messenger. I don't remember if this is the same video, but I just got a notification this morning. You know how Loom tells you like how many views your video has? It's like, your video is really popular. And it has like over 5 or so views of my one Loom video. So I think they're like kind of sharing it around the team. And I was expressing a little bit of concern for the average user on understanding the page setup. And
it's so confusing.
I was still confused. I have actually, like, since I made that video, I have a way better understanding of how to get it to do what I want it to do and how to organize my pages. But that's after how long have we been playing in 2.0? And then like days of me just straight being in 2.0. Now I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get this. And so I think that I say that to say that I think they're really taking it into consideration of like, okay, we've got this built and we think it's great, but now we actually have outsiders using it and actually really using it and building stuff with it. And so I think that they're going to start looking into more of the like, okay, what is the average user going to think of this?
Yeah.
Because they might need to simplify some things.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, enough chit chat on that. Dan, we're just going to turn it over to you. Ready?
Ready, set, go. Huh?
Ready, set, go. I'm going to switch views and then we'll be looking at Dan's screen.
Okay, there we go. Hopefully you can see my screen here.
Yeah, we see it. Yep. We have a little bit of a double screen going on, but that's what we're going to have to do so Dan can keep seeing us while he's working through it.
Well, are you getting a double screen as in?
Oh, no. No, you were good. Double as in they're seeing us twice. Okay. The camera's twice. Yeah, what we see is good.
Yeah, I wanted to, leave us all on the screen too. So what we're going to talk about here today is flexible containers inside of ClickFunnels 2.0. Now, flexible containers are coming from what is known as the Flexbox model for CSS. Okay. To back up here, back to older CSS, when CSS first came out, it's based off, of course, HTML, which is the code that gives us the structure of the site. So when you're putting together a ClickFunnels site, let's just go to 1.0. You all know how this works. You come in here and you say, I want to create, well, let's do it up here at the top. We want to add a section. So we're going to come in here, we're going to drop in a section. Okay, well, what is a section? It is a box. Think of this as a box inside of HTML. So we got one box right here, and now we're going to nest another box inside of it. So we're going to click on our row, and we're going to put in a 2-column row, and now we got the box that is the row inside of the section. So it's just like, Russian nesting dolls is the example.
Is it a box inside of a box, though, because it's 2 columns? Is the column a box inside of the bigger box?
Well, yeah. So we have a row that is a box, and then there are 2 columns. So the 2 columns make up 2 boxes inside of the bigger box, or
so like
inside of the bigger
twin
box.
Russian dolls.
Yeah. And so then we can put in other elements as well. And again, these are nothing more than boxes inside of boxes inside of boxes.
Okay.
And so when the CSS box model talks about how things are laid out, that's exactly what it's talking about, is these boxes all nested inside of each other, because that's how HTML works. And the CSS box model then says, okay, this is how we're going to manipulate these boxes. We're going to put borders around them. We're going to change the background colors. We're going to give them rounded corners. We're going to make them bigger or smaller. We're going to move them left, right, up and down with margin and padding and whatnot. That is the CSS box model in general. Well, the CSS Flexbox model says, okay, instead of just allowing us to be able to put boxes inside of boxes inside of boxes, we're going to turn this whole thing on its head, and we're going to let you put boxes wherever the heck you want, to some degree. Now, there are other fancier things you can do, like positioning and absolute and fixed and all that kind of stuff. That's something different than what Flexbox is. But what Flexbox will do is allow you to take things that normally would be impossible to essentially line up the way you want them to, and be able to do it with ease and without any CSS in ClickFunnels 2.0. So what I'm going to do first off is to show you just real quickly inside of 2.0 and how simple it is to set up a Flexbox. So we can come here, or in this case here, they call them Flex containers. So I said add a section, and we can just come over here and we can click on Flex container. You guys have a question?
No. I have a question, Dan, and I think you're doing an awesome build. And so my question might interfere with that build. And if it does, then I'm okay to hold. But I think that we still have to go back on, like, Dan, why do I care about any of this? Like, it's awesome. It's good to know. But why do I care?
Well, you might not, but the rest of the world.
No, I do. I am digging Flexbox. I am sold.
This is an image of something I built the other day using Flexbox. Okay. So what this is this is not 3 columns here. This is 3 Flex containers, which we told to line up side by side. So normally the Flex containers would come in one on top of each other. Well, within the settings, we say, okay, we don't want that. We want you to go like this. Okay. And you're going to see why that's important in a little bit as I build out some of this stuff. Same thing with these 3 stars here. These are 3 individual icons. That's not a singular image. When you put them in, it comes in one on top of each other. I said, put it this way. And then what I said is when you go to mobile, leave them side by each. Whereas the normal mobile functionality, especially in 1.0, would be to stack them back on top of each other. I said, no, leave them side by side like that.
So if I could just play dumb for a second and summarize what I think you just said. So I think what you just said, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that out of the box ClickFunnels, the way that all of us learned how to build, like anybody who went through Catherine Jones CF Design School, right? Like we all are very familiar with the concept of columns. We even have some fancy tricks on how to manipulate columns that most people don't know. And so we have all really built a lot with like understanding the concept of columns. And we all know the pain point of, yes, I know how to make columns work on desktop, but the way that ClickFunnels out of the box decides how those columns render on mobile is something we can't control. So we normally have to end up going to like building a new mobile only solution and a desktop only solution because we can't control the way that it's choosing to render columns. That's kind of first pain point.
Yeah, columns will always stack in 1.0, which is actually truly not actually a function of CSS or HTML. It is actually a function of ClickFunnels that they have them stack on top of each other. That is not
short of it. We can't control it.
Right, we cannot control it. So if you wanted to keep these 3 stars side by each like that, you wouldn't be able to without, again, doing some sort of coding in order to make that happen.
Yeah. And then I think that's, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I forget what I was going to say.
Okay, sorry. And then I think the second thing, if I'm hearing you right, is again, all of us who are really well versed in columns, we can do all kinds of like fun stuff where it looks like there's like compare charts and like coloration behind the column and things like that. But again, a pain point is that it thinks that all these columns are equal height. So if we have something that's inside there that's not quite equal, we always get this issue of like one box looks smaller than the other. And so we do all kinds of stupid things like add return carriages or extra padding and
invisible divider lines.
Yeah. And you never can control it because there's like 10 gazillion different pixel resolutions and screen resolutions and responsiveness, and it's enough to like drive you crazy. And so you have the conversation with your client to be like, well, we can't always control it on all screens, so we try to optimize for 1440 and iPhone 10, or whatever it is. And it's crazy making, right? So if I'm hearing you right, Dan, and playing dumb, Flex solves that problem.
One line of CSS code fixes that problem.
Mm-hmm. But Flex, right?
Well, it is using Flex, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is using the display property with the value of Flex. And once you turn that on in the right place, you got to know the right place to turn it on, then boom, it will actually make all of these the same height. It's known as stretch inside of Flex, is that the default is actually to stretch all of the columns if you apply Flex to the columns.
Okay.
It will make them automatically all the same height. So that is exactly what I did with this right here. Is I have different height content, yet automatically they go to being exactly the same height.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so I'll let you go ahead and go.
And on all these here, you can change how far apart all these items are. With again in 2.0, it's clicking on one thing that will say, oh, well, let's say we want these spread out all the way top to bottom. No, we want all of them at the bottom. No, we want all of them at the top. No, we want this amount of room in between, or we want this kind of a gap in the columns. And you could do that all with just the settings now in 2.0.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Okay. So thank you for letting us go on that little bit of a detour. I just think it's, I think Nicole Kuntz, who's my designer, she thinks that Flex is the best thing that's ever happened to her in terms of being able to have the design lay exactly how she wants it to lay on the screen in multiple different screens. So it's a super powerful tool. And I just wanted to make sure that we hit on that hard, but you can please keep building because it's awesome. I love where you're taking us. I just want to make sure.
This is without a doubt the most powerful thing that they have put in here. I've never seen it in any builder before. They still got a couple bugs in it. They still actually forgot one of the Flex properties. They didn't even put it in there, so they're going to have to put that in. But you also see here we were talking about making these full height independent of the amount of content, because it will always pick the tallest column and match them all up. But when you go to mobile then, and in this case here, I told it on mobile, I want them stacking on top of each other. You could have them stacked side by each, but that really looks stupid. So you would stack them all on top of each other. But you see here then, each one of these columns retains its own height. It doesn't have all that extra padding at the bottom.
Right.
So it shortens it up real nice. And in this case here, I left these 3 side by side as well as these 2 images down here.
Mm-hmm.
So you get complete flexibility. And the coolest part, when I saw this, I'm just like, oh my God, is you can change the settings based on the viewport size. Or more accurately, you can change the setting based on the device, whether it's desktop or if it's mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, if you still can't get it to be exactly the way you want, well, then you add in a little bit of CSS if you need to. But this, I mean, I'll show you real, in a second here, how simple the CSS really is in and of itself. But I shot a training video on this a couple of weeks ago, and the video is well in excess of an hour long, just me explaining what Flexbox is. And so having an understanding of how Flexbox natively works in CSS will help anybody who wants to then go into here. But hopefully I will teach you at least the bulk of it right now. So we'll just move forward. So unless you guys got another question, we're going to keep moving.
No, please keep going. Yep.
Okay, so before Andrea had her question, I just came in here. Let me just delete this out. I came in here and I said, let's add a section. And I said, instead of a section, or in lieu of a section or whatever, I'm just going to put in a Flex container. Well, I found this out the other day, is that you cannot save a Flex container as a universal section or even save it as a section. So the best thing to do on this, although you can build an entire page using just Flex boxes in here, or Flex containers more accurately, what you want to do first is create a section. And then inside of that, you want to add a new row. And instead of the row, we're going to put in our Flex container. So now you can come up here, you can save this as a universal, you can save it whatever, and then you can use it anywhere you want. So you can use this to build out your header, your footer, whatever you want, parts of a blog page, which is going to get reused many, many times. You could do it like that. So now here we have what is known as the Flex container. And Flex really takes 2 things. You have a container, like I said before, we got boxes inside of boxes inside of boxes. Same thing here. You always have to look at what is a container, because that's where you turn the Flex on, and then it will flex everything inside of it. So all of the elements inside of the container are what get flexed. So the container itself does not flex. Everything inside the container flexes. But because you can nest containers inside of containers inside of containers, you can still then flex the containers because they are then a child element inside of the outer container. So
and again, just to make sure, Dan, just dumb question. So flex, when you're saying it can flex, it basically either boils down to a line break or a reduction, a size change. Is that a really rudimentary way of saying that?
No.
Okay. What are the ways that something can flex?
Well, you're just going to have to.
All right. Okay.
Go out here for a minute, because you'll see it, and as we go along, you'll understand. So I'm doing it like this on purpose, because when I open this up, you're going to see what amounts to probably about 30 new icons in here that you've never seen before. And so I'm doing it this way just so you get to freak out or not freak out, whatever you choose to do at this point.
We're going to freak out.
So we open this up, and all of a sudden you get all this gobbledygook right here. And you're like, what in the heck is all of this? Well, we're going to go back to 1.0 to show you what all of this actually does, because it's a much simpler way. Because the problem is here, if I do it inside of an existing Flex container, it's going to start applying the Flex. And so I can't show you what it would look like normally before we applied the Flex. So we're going to come over here. And all I did is, again, section, row, and then threw in, these are all images here. I just changed the words that you can put in there. Normally it says like demo image. I changed that to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So we've got 3 boxes with 6 side-by-side boxes in the 3rd box.
Yeah, well, no, these aren't side by side. Because you can't make them side by side without applying Flex.
6 inside of the same box in the last box.
Yeah, so basically you got your row. Obviously it creates a column. You can't see the column here because we're on a single column. And then we got 6 image elements all stacked one on top of each other. I made them 250
Which
pixels.
sounds a lot like if I had social media and I'd want some icons all next to each other.
So think of these as icons. Think of these as the stars in my example right here. Same thing. These could have been social media icons. It doesn't really matter. So anything that you want to line up side by each, you can do like this. So we have these 6 images right here. And as you see, as I move my mouse across it, you're going to see the orange goes all the way across the screen. That's because at this point here, this is known as what is a block level element. And a block level element will always take up all the space it can have. But you can change this to an inline level element, and then it will only take up the space required, and it will automatically float it to the left-hand side. So that's the first thing we're going to see when we go into our Flex over here and we start playing with it. And I'm purposely doing this in CSS, in the dev tools, because I'm going to show you some stuff in here that's going to look very much like what you're seeing right here. And that's because this is where it came from. It comes straight out of CSS. So we're going to come in here, and what we want to do is we want to find this very first image element. So here we have our image elements all stacked on top of each other like we just saw. Now, what did I say earlier? We have a container, and then the container, we have the Flex container, and then it will flex all of the elements inside of it. So we got to go one element outside of these images to this col inner right here. We'll click on that, we'll come down, and all we have to do is say display of Flex, and look at what happened. It applied Flex to it and put them all across the screen up here at the top. So now the cool thing is a couple things here is you can come in here and you can see where it says Flex right here. It's in white. You want to just click on this, and this will show us then as we go forward where all the Flex elements are, and then where the additional space is, the columns, everything else as we're moving forward. So the other thing when you come down here and click on this little thing, which looks very much like this stuff does over here, except for the one that's missing. See, there is one that's missing. They got to put this in here. It has to be Flex Wrap.
Oh, yeah.
You can either wrap or not wrap the lines, and they don't have that in here at all yet, so that has to go in there. And I didn't even think about it until I was looking at some help docs this morning, or not some help docs, some feature requests, and I was just like, holy cow, he's right. They did miss that. And so we're going to click on this, and we're going to open it up, and look what opens up here. Exactly what's on the other page for the most part. Okay. So then we start looking at our options here. We have our Flex direction. Well, if we come over here, we got Flex direction right here. So we're going to say Flex direction. And in this case here, each one of these always has a default. Any property in CSS, it's always going to have a default value. And so in this case here, we got our Flex direction of row. And so that means it's going to go horizontally from left to right. Now, the first thing that gets really confusing with Flex is you have 2 axes. You have your main axes, and then you have your cross axes. So in the case of a row, the main axis is horizontal. And in a normal row, it is horizontal left to right. In the cross axes, of course, would then be up and down. But now we can change this to column, and now the main axis is up and down, and the cross axis is left and right.
Okay, Dan, and just to surface up a little bit, why the heck do I care about axes?
You're going to care in a minute. Depending on what axis you are on, or axis, however you want to say it, it will change these elements down here. So just watch, because see the way they're lined up now? Once I click on this, look what happened. They all flip on their sides. So depending on which way you're going, whether it's right and left or up and down, it will change the functionality of all of these other values that you can put in here. So we can go left to right, and we can go top to bottom. Well, then they have the reverse of these as well. So we can redo a row reverse, and you see now it counts from 1 on the right over to 6 on the left.
Okay.
So whereas if we go with the regular row, this is what is known as Flex Start over here. If we do the reverse, Flex Start is now over here. So it just completely flips it around. Same thing with the column reverse. So here we had flex start up here, flex end down here. We flip that around, it goes the other way. So because of that, it can affect some of these other settings down here. Like if we go here, we let it highlight, this says flex start. So it will go to flex start. So everything will justify to flex start. Well, if flex start is over on the right-hand side on a column, that means everything's going to float to the right because you have reversed the column. I mean, you have reversed the order of the row. So that's why I said it gets confusing with the different axes and where the starting points are. But because they have put in tools like this in here and now inside of ClickFunnels 2.0, it makes it a lot easier. You start clicking and you'll see the stuff move around.
Okay.
So for the two that are to make the flex start on the right-hand side or the bottom of the container, do you have an example of when you would ever do that? Does that have more to do with like how it behaves to the different screen sizes?
I mean, it could be a mobile. It could be a mobile thing. It could be a lot of different things. I'll have an example right down here that will show you why you would want to use this in case of flipping this around.
Okay. All right. Show it. We'll probably understand it better when we get to that. Okay.
Yeah. So the next one down here, and we can turn this off because like I said, every one of these has a default. In this case here, row is the default for your flex direction. So we come down here, we got wrap or no wrap. In this case, the default is no wrap, but we can turn on the wrap and then it's going to wrap down to the next line. Because before this, it wasn't wrapping because in this case here, because it turned them all into inline style elements and you didn't tell it to wrap, it's going to smush them all down into one single line. Here, they will stay as inline level elements, but they'll retain their original width of 250 pixels. So we're going to wrap it around to the next line. Now the next part comes in, okay, well, how do we get some space in between there? Okay, so we can click on these align content all day long and they're not going to do anything. Why is that? Because we're on the main axis right now. We're not on the cross axis, we're on the main axis because we're on the rows. So in order to move this stuff around, we have to come down here to justify content. So it's a CSS property known as justify content. It only works if you turn on this flex to begin with. But here we're going to say we're going to float this to, or we're going to do flex end. So boom, all of them now go over to the right hand side. Well, if I change the direction here to column, you're not going to see any change there because again, it's only taking up a certain amount of height. It's not, if there was more height in here for some reason, it would actually go to the bottom of the page.
Yeah, there's no extra space.
Right. So it has nowhere else to go because it will still only live inside of that container. It won't force itself outside of it at all. So we can go at the beginning, left or right. We can center everything like this. We can do space between, we can do space around, and we can do space evenly. Now, when you got 6 of them on the screen, it doesn't necessarily look great, but if you had 8 or you had 6 and it was like 3 per line, that would line up better. But then you can also come in here and it's another property they actually have here. They just call it gap. But in this case here, it's actually 2 different CSS properties that we can put in here. And it's one of them is column gap. And let's just say we want that to be 20 pixels. So it'll give us 20 pixels in between. And then we can also say row gap of another 20 pixels, and it'll give us space between it like that. So again, it's a pretty simple example, but think of here you have just three icons. And you can drop the icons in there. You can say, let's center those 3 icons. And then, in fact, let's just do this real quick. I can just, let's delete these out of here. Okay, so let's pretend these are icons. We'll go back up to our flex container and we will just say now, what do we want to do? We want to center justify this. So that's now being center justified inside of our column. And then we're just going to come down here and we're going to say we want our column gap to be 20 pixels. We put 20 pixels in between. You don't need to put in any margin. You don't need to set any particular size or anything. Well, you still pick the font size of the icon. So let's say you want them all to be 52 pixels. There you go. Put a little space in between. They're perfectly centered. Or you can, again, float them to either end if you wanted to. So however you want them to line up, you may, if you want to left justify them in your column or right justify them in the column, that's where you do something like this. Now, I mean, I have it in a wide single column, but if you could do this into a 3-column row down in the footer, and then boom, 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 with a couple of clicks now in 2.0, you can put them in the footer, line them all up, and be done. No CSS, no nothing. So now the next example here, if you guys are okay with that first one, is people do this all the time. So you're coming down through your thing, and I refer to this as serpentining. So you got an image, text, image, blah, blah. Now what happens though when we go to mobile is you got a problem. You got, they're not alternating anymore. So what would your guys' fix for this be?
Duplicate the images and make some of them mobile only, make some of them desktop only.
Okay, so you would normally say we want to clone this one here. We're going to put this on top. We're going to say this one we want to be mobile only. And then, let me go back to desktop here. You can see it easier. And then this one here would be desktop only. Okay. So that would go.
Dan, I'm just going to pause you for a quick second because I think, Mark, first of all, thank you so much for sharing this. So Mark was just saying, like, I'm so lost. And I have to say, so again, I consider myself pretty tech savvy. When Dan first introduced the concept of flex, I was like, okay, I know it's important, but I don't get it. Like, and then my designer started using it more and she loved it. And I was like, I don't know why, but my brain, like, I don't get it. Like, I get it, but I don't get it. And so I feel like flex is kind of one of those situations where, whenever you learn a foreign language and you just don't really understand it, but you're just immersion, and then all of a sudden, like, you start kind of picking up on it and you it starts to kind of make sense. And then all of a sudden you have that design that you're like, I wish I could do this. And you make the connection to be like, oh my gosh, I can do that with flex. So I would just encourage you. And this is crazy advice, Mark, but it's the best advice I can give is be just uncomfortable and just kind of let the concepts wash over you. And I swear, just like what Warren said, I think, Warren, you hit the nail on the head. When you hit that design where you're like, oh, it's not rendering the way on mobile I want it to, or these columns aren't lining up the way I want them to line up, or I wish I could control this experience a little bit better. Flex is going to come into your conscious and you're going to be like, all right, let's flex. So anyway, I would encourage, and we'll keep talking about it too, because it's so powerful, but it is hard to get at first. It is.
Yeah, we should just make a whole series on flex and be like, here's all the things we're doing with every time we make something new. I have an example of my own that if we can get to it, we'll get to it. If not, we'll share it at a different time. But okay, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a problem I do every single page I ever make is what Dan is showing us right here of the problem with the images not being in the right order.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so you saw what I did. I just cloned it, dropped it in on top, made one desktop, one mobile. So now here's what we come up with. And normally this looks just fine, depending on how it works. But I've also built it out where the problem came in is that there was the wrong amount of gap in between here, because maybe a negative image or negative top margin on one of them or something. And then maybe you can change it for mobile, maybe you can't. And sometimes it gets to be problematic. Well, I'll show you a different way to do this altogether. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to take out, is this the one that's mobile only? Let's take this back out and go back to desktop, change this back to all. Okay, let's save it, preview it, preview. Okay, I'll get this figured out. Okay, so reload it. Okay, what we want to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to come down. We want to identify this row right there.
One other thing too, because Mark, I don't know that if you're on Dan's, but so one thing that you're seeing here that I think we kind of just jumped in and we're saying, so Dan works in Inspector a lot. And again, I know for me, when I was first building, even today, Inspector is intimidating. It's very powerful, but it's very intimidating. And so you really have to like, I think I'll just speak for myself. I really have to kind of just be super okay with being uncomfortable and fumbling my way. So this thing over here on the left that he's in and how he's coding it, he has a whole course on it and it's amazing. But this is all about how to work with inspectors so that you don't have to go back and forth between editor and preview mode. You can just kind of see right there when he was talking about the boxes, the box inside of a box. So again, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but that's another layer of like, it intimidated the crap out of me when I first started working with Dan. So just wanted to just make sure, because we don't normally on the show go into inspector very often. So
I was just gonna say also, like, everything that Dan is doing right here is way easier to do. You don't have to go into inspector. It's in the native settings in 2.0. So everything he's teaching you, which is the principle, is way easier to apply in 2.0, which I think he's going to get to.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well, that is definitely true. But I wanted to show how it worked with 1.0 for one thing, but also to give you the idea and principle and seeing it here. Because like I said, if I were to just start dropping this stuff into 2.0 where we had the flex boxes already turned on, it's going to like start doing it for us. And I want to show how it actually has to be done, what the basis is behind it, so that you understand where this came from. I think that's really important. And just FYI, this is known as the Chrome Developer Tool. Is what this is that I'm currently working in here. And all the major browsers have a dev tool built into them. So if you want to use Firefox or something, go ahead. Some people say actually Firefox's dev tools are even better. I don't know.
Is that someone, Joanne? Is that what you and Joanne battle on?
No.
Okay.
Discussion. But I will tell you, at any given point in any day, whether it's 1.0 or 2.0, 90% of the time I have dev tools open on at least one page or multiple.
It has helped me understand how to make designs better and what to do the more that you orient and teach on it. So I will say it is super powerful. And one other thing on 2.0, Susan's right in that you won't have to get into the code. But what Dan is looking at over here on the left, it is more easily accessible in 2.0 right at the bottom when you turn on the code element, where before it was like this like separated thing that you had to go into CSS or you had to go into tracking code. Instead in 2.0 it's all right there, which is amazing.
Yeah, and then because what I like to do is, so I'll even in 2.0 with the flex boxes, because I know how to do it in the CSS in the dev tool, is I'll turn on the flex box and I'll drop some stuff into it. Then I'll go into the dev, I will go onto a live page, go into the dev tool, and then turn on, well, flex will already be turned on, and I'll click on that little icon. It'll show me the display, and I'll just start clicking on stuff. Okay, it's moving here. This is the way I want it. And then all you got to do is duplicate that back into the editor itself. Okay, well, I clicked on this one and this one and this one, and then that's how I got it to work like that. That just, for me, it works a lot better. But again, I'm so used to using the dev tool that I know how to do it. But I'll show you also at the end here how I do it in 1.0. So either way, we need to take these two columns here and we need to switch them. So we need to flex these around only when it goes to mobile, though. So what you could do, actually, this is probably, let's do it this way, because this is actually probably a simpler way to even do it, is let's come in here and let's, well, I guess you wouldn't have to do this then. I was going to say we could just clone this row and then flip them, but then make one mobile and one desktop, but then we wouldn't need to do that. That's actually another solution that's probably even simpler than anything else we're doing here. But I will just show you this real quickly then. So we have our two columns here. We want to flip these two columns. So we're in our row. We're going to come down here and we're just going to say display of flex. And then we're going to say, well, let's open up our tool. Let's do it the way we should be doing it. We'll turn on that if we wanted to. And then we will click here and we will say, what do we want to do? We want to change the direction. So we're just going to do this. So now we just changed the direction. So we did flex direction, row reverse. So it just flips it around. Now when we go to mobile, they'll all be stacked up. Well, they should have been stacked up properly.
It's little.
What
do you need to do a It's tiny on the left
Oh,
side.
okay, yeah, that's
One of
right.
your other settings too.
What I need to do is set this actually to, there we go. So it's not reversed, because remember before we were talking about our main axis and our cross axis. Well, when we go from desktop, we're in row. When we go to mobile, we are in column. And so now we have to reverse the order of the column, not the order of the row. That's what we have to do. Now, in this case here, we would have to add a media query to say that we only want this to happen when we go into a mobile view. And so we're not going to go through all that trouble. But what I would do here, if this was 1.0 and I was happy with what I had created for my CSS, I would just simply copy the CSS right here, along with the selector. If I had it available, the ID or whatever you're using, I would come into the CSS and I just paste it in. So I do all the work of writing the code, the CSS, in the dev tools, and then I just come and paste it in here. And that's the simplest way to do this in 1.0. In 2.0, again, you probably won't have to do a lot of that stuff. But now for our third example here, we were talking earlier, and we showed the image in case somebody's just joining us, is getting the height the same on all three of these columns. And so we can do that right here in 1.0 as well. And we can just come in, and we're going to highlight the row, because that's where we need to start. And because, again, this is going to be our flex container, is going to be the row, and we are going to flex the three columns that are inside of it. And so all we have to do is come down here, and we're going to just say display of flex, and it's not doing it. It should be by default, I thought. Unless, you know, I should have tested this one ahead of time, because it's been a while since I've done it, and I forgot.
That's all right.
Yeah, I should have done this one ahead of time. Because, or do I got to do it at this level? This one's always confusing. You know, I think, let's just try it here. There we go. All right. Okay, so each one of these columns, so this flex up here, we can turn that back off. Nope, we can't. So that's it. We got to flex both of them. That's what it is. That's the trick. Okay, so for each one of these then, so we were at the col, we're at this level here. So then we say here, display of flex. And then the last one, we'll do the same. We'll do this one as well, display of flex. And of course, they're all the same. And then when we come back up to this level here at the row, let's say we want to change the order of them. And so again, we can change the order that they are in, anything like that. But then also we can come into our column, and let's say we want to change the spacing on this. So we can say now, let's make it, okay, of course this isn't working right. Which one am I on here? I'm on the red one. I was thinking we could come in here and change.
Maybe on the inner.
Well, I may need to put in another level of flex on here as well. I really thought. Okay, so it's been a while since I did this. So stretch is what makes it tall like this. I wonder if I need to go down. Yeah, I do need to go down one more level. So now we got to go into the inside here. We need to say we want to display this flex as well. And now you see it lined them up side by side. And so what we want to do now is we want to line that up as a column. Because again, the default is row. So it wants to line it up as a row. Now we'll line it up as a column. And now we can say, okay, we want to spread them out top to bottom, or we want different spacing in between. As I'm doing this, let's turn this on. So you can see the extra space in between here is what it then flexes and gives you the chance to have it look however you want. And then again, you can still come in here. And so let's say we want them both in the center like this, but we want to do this would be a column gap, because we're in a column right now of 50 pixels. Is that going to work? That did it at the top and the bottom, didn't it? But not in between. Okay, let's try row gap then of 50 pixels. There you go. So it's row gap in between the two of them. And so now we got 50 pixels in between. Even though we set them to the center, we now said, let's go 50 pixels in between. And so again, all of this can be accomplished with absolutely no CSS inside of 2.0, which I'm sure you guys are dying to see.
Build something, build something.
So what we're going to do is we are going to build ourselves pretty much, we're going to try to at least, work on some of it here, this right here. Okay. So let's come in here. And what we need to do to start off with is we need to scroll down. Depending on how you get into here, it's either way at the bottom or it's at the top. And so we're going to put in a flex container. So we have one flex container here. And what we're going to do, just so we can see these things, is I'm going to change the background color on this. So let's make this one a reddish color.
You and your red, Dan. No, you're a primary color guy.
Would you prefer I made it fuchsia or something?
Nope. You do you, boo.
Okay. Background, here we go.
You can see that Dan's building columns inside of a row just with flex containers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is these should be stacking up on top of each other, but because I'm already in a flex container and because the default for a flex container is row, it automatically makes them row. That's why I couldn't really show you how to build it from scratch without going into 1.0. I didn't do
Dan,
that.
for those of us who don't know though, like this, when you made this row, just to go back, you didn't make 3 columns in the row.
Right? No, what I did is, so we had a flex container, and then inside of that flex container, I dropped a second flex container, and then I just cloned it twice. So again, we got one flex container out on the outside, and then we got 3 of them on the inside of it right now.
Got it.
Okay. So now what we want to do is, because
I have a total side note that's going to be really distracting, but it just, okay. Did anybody ever see the South Park where it was like the guy that was like, it's a Taco Bell instead of a KFC instead of a Taco Bell, and it's a dream state? Do you guys remember this one? And then like the guy's like, okay, I'm going to provide the foreground and my assistant's going to provide the background. And so the like Freudian shrink guy comes up and is like, this is what happened. And the guy in the background's like, ba, 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 for dramatic effect. Anyway, that's what this
container inception's happening.
Exactly. We've got total inception happening.
Cartman was smuggling gravy or something. Is that the same?
Yeah, it's called Inception because they're all like in a deep sleep and like anyway.
All right, now what we do here, because we're inside of this flex container and we put in, when you think of them, you could have dropped a section in here. You could, well, I don't know what section, but you certainly could drop like a row or elements or whatever inside of here. But now we're going to come in and we're going to say the direction here is set as row at this point. Well, we don't want that. We want to change this. No, actually, we did want it as rows. Well, how it should have stacked up normally inside of ClickFunnels 1.0 is one on top of each other. Because Flex was already turned on, it lined them up side by each, which is what we were looking at for this one right here, is lining them all up side by side. So then what we can do is...
Yeah, just dumb question though. As you're doing that, am I thinking desktop or am I thinking mobile when you're doing this?
Well, if we want to go to mobile, it will make them side by side. But here, check this out. So let's come to that Flex container and do this. We have it clicked on mobile. Boom. And now what happens when we go back here? Side by each.
Got it. So I can set it for both mobile and desktop.
It retains it across based upon the device.
Isn't it still a 770 break?
Whatever you have turned on up here will change this, whether it's desktop or mobile.
That's fantastic. Is it still a 770 break in new 2.0?
1170 on a row?
No, the viewport that is break for mobile.
Yeah, 770 pixels, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the viewport break.
Got it. Which, again, to everybody in the audience, our poor iPad Pro users get struck. They're just in limbo land. And normally it doesn't render well, but for the most part, that is pretty much any mobile device.
Well, I found actually that 1024 pixels, which is an iPad, actually works better in 2.0 than it did on 1.0.
Really? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I pretty much told all my clients like
Stuff
iPad
doesn't start
Pro
breaking.
users.
But the other thing is, though, because you can change the width of anything now, whereas before it was, it would automatically set this here to 1170.
Yeah.
Now you can set the width of the column. In this case here, it's width of a flex container, but the width of a column, or sorry, not a column, a row. You set the width of the row to anything you want now. It had been defaulted to 1170 in 1.0. Now you can set that on the fly.
Good question. Warren is asking, can you set more breakpoints or just 2 desktop mobile? Great question, Warren.
You could, but it would take CSS. It would take what's known as a media query. You could set an infinite number of breakpoints. If you want to have a breakpoint at 1024 for iPads to make sure it's perfect for the people on the iPads, you can set that, and then you write the rest of the CSS just for that device.
Yeah.
But
which, fun fact for all of you 1.0 template lovers, I think all Dan, Susan, and I can all speak of horror stories of clients coming to us because they got a template. They had no idea the code that was associated with the template. ClickFunnels is notorious for giving templates that have code, just old code, doing nothing, some of it doing stuff that's just all over it. So, and that breakpoint stuff and the code for that, and media query stuff, I see it all the time fixing. Well, I don't work with templates, but when I'm trying to fix a template, it's in there. So just a word to the wise. If you're a template lover, get rid of all that crap.
Well, that's the first question I always have for somebody. If I first, did you use a template? Yes. Yep. Did you check the code? What do you mean? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That's why it's not working. So as we had over here, so we had 3 levels nested deep here for our flex. So we had flex at the level of the row, then we had flex at the level of what is there, the column, and then we had to do flex one more time on the inside to get the elements to line up the way we wanted to inside of here. Now, you wouldn't have to do this last one because we could just come in here, wherever I was, we can come in here and just start dropping in elements. We can drop in some headlines, we can do whatever. And depending on what we do, well, let's just put some in. Here's another nice thing about 2.0 is that it will, you don't have to go out every time you click on something. So I can put in a headline, a sub-headline, and a paragraph, and some bullet points. And you see what happened here is they all maintain the same height. But now again, so that's automatic. What is known as stretch is the default. As soon as you turn on Flexbox, stretch is the default for the height on these elements. And again, the default is row. So we would have to come in here and we say, okay, we don't want this in a row. We want this in a column. So we're going to click here and we're going to put everything into a column.
That is so huge. Like, I just got to pause for a second. Like, that is so huge. I would spend hours again. So Mark, to your, earlier question. So just the ability for those to stay consistent, like all of those boxes are consistently the same height. And we don't have to do some shenanigans around like, let's do a return and see if it's okay on my giant 27-inch. And then let's try it on a 1440 and like, oh, too many returns and play with space of height. Like it's crazy making. But now that is just 100% taken care of and we can have that consistency of a look is so big. Because I agree with you, Susan. I think probably on almost 100% of my builds, there is some element of this that is needed.
Yeah.
Okay, now what you see I did here, actually, let me just turn this text white so we can actually.
Hey, Nathan, welcome.
So we can actually see the text.
Oh, and Warren said, but 2.0 only has a UI for 2 sizes. Correct, Warren. Yes, it is. And then Nathan, last check of time and no notifications. Ah, dang it. I don't know that we did an event for today too. We've usually been trying to be pretty good about events, but I don't know that we did one for
guys,
today.
I have the event set up, but you have to go RSVP to them if you want the notifications.
Ah, dang it all.
Yeah.
You know what, Nathan, we're always up for suggestions on how to make it better too.
It doesn't notify anybody the events either.
Should we start emailing you guys? Let us know.
Totally open. Yeah, we love it. We love you guys here. So yeah. And Nathan, just to real quick summary. So, and we'll actually be in here pretty soon. But for the replay and what we're talking about now, just so we don't dive head first, is We have Dan on, and he is talking to us about the power of flex. And if you're not familiar with the concept of flex, flex just allows you to be able to manipulate the stuff on the screen in a really cool way. And normally it's a crap ton of just like code work or shenanigans on 1.0, but in 2.0, which I think we've pretty much all said at some point, one of the single best features of 2.0 is Flexbox. Because it's going to allow us just some amazing flexibility, no pun intended, in our designs and making them exactly how we want.
It is flexibility because it's it's the flex box model or flexible box model, and like I said, it takes what was the CSS HTML box model and gives you infinite possibilities of how you can easily line these boxes up instead of the same old way where it's one inside of the other. This is still same. It's still one inside the other, but totally functions differently. But so let's just continue along here. So you see here, I put in 3 items here, got 4 over here. So this made all the boxes, even the empty one over here, all the same height. And I wasn't sure if it was going to do this or not. Now, like I said, I should have practiced on this. I built this thing, the model I had here, in case somebody hadn't seen it. I built this probably a month ago and haven't looked at Flex since. But so what we had here is, so I opened up the Flex container inside of this, that is the Flex container that is this column. And I came in here and I said, normally it'll come in as a row. Now I'm making it a column. But then I noticed here that justification came on. I wasn't sure if it was going to or not, or if we had to create another flex box inside of the column in order to get it to work. But it appears to be working. And so we can change it. We can go to, so this is flex middle, this is flex start, this is flex end. Then we got space, I don't know. Eventually here, if you hold your mouse here long enough, that's space around, space between, and then space evenly. And so you can have it do all these different things. And then, as I said, we can also, let me see here if we can do this, we can change the gap. Now, in this case here, it's only changing the gap on the outside. And I think that's all we're going to get. So they really need, like I said, they got a couple things they're kind of missing here. And so they need to give us the ability to do column gap and row gap, and also they need the ability to do wrap. These are all built in functions, but if they're going to go this far, let's go all the way. Yeah. Let's just make this thing work. And then if we come up here to self-align, see, that starts messing with it, because up here where you got this one here, that's stretch. That's the default. That's what gives us the full height. That's where it says, okay, all of you kids across the board go to full height. And that is the default. So you don't even need to have that turned on at all. So we can just clear that off right there. And then the other thing I was going to show here, and let's see if we can get this to work, is we're going to add in here now we need to put in another flex container right here.
I was just saying, and what you're about to show is, so this is actually my recollection of history, Dan, and history is always in the eyes of the beholder usually. So my recollection of history is that way back when we even started first talking about Flex was because we had a whole bunch of people in the CF Design School community that was like, I have social media and my person has 5 social media icons, and on mobile, the stupid things go up and down and I can't get them to stay side by side. This to me was like the catalyst for the whole Flex thing. So you provided a solution, and I know that your journey has been significant in terms of like even getting better at this, but this was like the pain point that so many CF Design School students had of, I need my social media images to lay in flat, and I can't do an image because each one needs to be clickable. So they have to be separate images, and I want them side by side. And on mobile, that wouldn't work because ClickFunnels out of the box made them do this way, and it was crazy making. And so you had some initial solutions, but then eventually we got to this Flex solution. And that to me is when we started talking about Flex, was this problem right here.
Yeah. So if you guys want, I'll show you again exactly what I did here. So we're in this column, and it doesn't have to be inside of a Flex column. Let's just come down here. Let's just add another section. Just to show it doesn't need to be as complicated as we're making it with all these different rows and stuff. So let's just come into a 3-column row. And let's say in here, we're just going to put in a paragraph just to have some text in here. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to say element. And we're going to say, let's come down here. You got to find it. I could type it in. And we're just going to come down here. We're going to say an element. We're going to put in our icon. And then just for sake of brevity here, I'm just going to clone this twice. And there you go. I just set up in a matter of a couple of clicks exactly what you're talking about.
That will actually stay on mobile and not stack if we set it up.
Well,
right.
let's see what it's going to do on mobile. Now that you see. Oh, what did it do? It stayed just how we wanted it to, side by each. Now
We'll
again,
scroll down and do the graphy ones.
we could come in here and we could change this and we could say, okay, well, we want them to line up in a column. I don't know
Which
why
this is the default ClickFunnels that nobody wanted.
Yeah. In that case, you wouldn't want to do that because you went through all the trouble of doing the other.
Mhm.
But again, same thing. We can come in here and we can say we want to put in a flex container again. So put in the flex container, and we're going to put in 2 image elements. We'll just clone this one here. And now immediately it lined them up because, again, we're inside of a flex box, and the default is to set it as a row. So it's going to set them up side by side. And then if we go to mobile, it will stay side by side like that. And you can change, you can mess around with the size and stuff because, let me see here. We can do settings, image width of auto. I don't know, when I built this one over here, like I said, it's been a little while. I got them to look really good, whereas here they seem to shrink them down. And I don't remember exactly right offhand what I did, but I know I didn't use any CSS. All of it was completely built right into the editor. And I think it's just an issue of I got really narrow columns and stuff here. So just broaden out your columns, broaden out the row, and it will look better. But then...
Hey, can I just do a little celebration too? I'm just realizing. So we've been going for about an hour, right? This whole time, not one bug, not one instability, not one crash, right? Like all amazingness of us just showing it. We just gotta celebrate. Let's just celebrate.
This too. I just accidentally deleted that entire column. Let's see if the way back button works. Oh, it worked.
Oh, that's so cool. But
that's like, probably the coolest part for me. How many times have I deleted stuff and I go, oh no.
Oh, I know, and it never works to come back. I know. Yep. But yeah. So anyway, celebrating the wins. And even there's no bugs, there's been no UX issues. Like we've pretty much all there hasn't been a place where we're like, I don't understand what's going on here. You know what I mean? So yay, it's good.
Well, and as we saw, we can do different things here. So these are just regular elements, and then in between these 2 regular elements, I dropped in another flex box in between, and then dropped in more elements into that flex box. And I have no doubt we can go one more level down and one more after that. But it gets kind of silly after a while.
We're gonna have a Russian doll challenge.
Yeah. But now
to your point, Dan, we should have a contest of the only tool. Like on Master Chef, how they give you 5 ingredients and then you have to make something amazing. So we're gonna do this with ClickFunnels 2.0, where your only ingredient is Flexbox. That's it. You can only use Flex. You're not allowed to use more than one section, more than one row. Only Flexbox. Go. It's gonna be so much fun.
I guarantee you that when I'm building going forward, I probably will be doing exactly that.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have anything else. So we can come in here. Let's put some.
What are we going to call it? CF 2.0 flex off?
Well, I will tell you something right now.
Flex the hardest. We're not talking about biceps, people. We're talking about boxes.
Okay, this is something I found. There is a glitch in here yet, and this is.
You couldn't just let us run with it, could you?
No, I mean, because I don't want people going out there and going, oh, I can't get the borders or the shadows to work right. And
they've been having some problems with them on some of the things.
Well, yes, the reason why is because I inspected the code, and that's another reason why you should learn how to do this stuff so you can inspect the code and see what the hell's going on. But what they did is actually you have the flex. But basically, there's there's an outer wrapper and an inner wrapper. Okay, both of them have exactly the same class. Each element in CF 2.0 is given a class, but it's essentially an ID. And so because of that, both of these elements have exactly the same class. So when you turn it turns on the shadow or the border for both of them at the same time. And so I put in a ticket on that. Hopefully they'll get this fixed soon. Because if you do that, or if you do a border, you get exactly the same thing. You can see it there. I'll make it bigger. It does exactly the same thing. But honestly, this is the only bug I have found in Flex.
It's awesome.
Is this problem here? So right now, don't be trying to put borders or anything around it. But what I started to show here is, so we could come out here, we could put on this, the outer here, we can do a border around that. We could do a border around, what am I doing here? We, of course, could do a border around the section that we initially built. And so you can layer layers upon layers upon layers, whereas, again, with 1.0, there was always a problem. It's like, okay, well, you always needed one more extra layer because I needed to put one more extra shadow around something or one more extra border. And so I resorted at times to building entire sections and then using JavaScript code to take that entire section and inject it inside of another section or inside of another row, just in order to get the layers of things that I needed. Here again, with Flexbox, it's infinite. The things you can stack inside of each other with what you saw is basically a couple of clicks.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And a little rudimentary understanding of how this stuff works. So, Susan, I don't know if we still got some time, but did you have something you wanted us to look at? And yes, anybody can have this piece of artwork for $10,000. You just
NFT it. NFT it. Is NFT still a thing?
2.0 NFTs.
Just need a bowl or something on here now, just to maybe dogs. We need dogs playing cards on here. That's what we need.
Okay, Andrea, if you need to jump off, feel free to whenever. I'm just gonna show how I've used Flex so far in 2.0.
Yeah.
So we're gonna switch screens.
Okay. I need to stop sharing.
You're good. I already kicked you off.
And thank you, Dan, too, just for that walkthrough. And again, I'm just going to encourage everybody who's listening, either now or on the replay. We will continue to talk about Flex and in working sessions. We'll get our Flex on because it's super powerful once you start to really hone in on it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have the social icons down in the footer. Let me jump into the universal section, but we've got just a regular 3-column row. And then I have a Flex container inside of my third row here with my icons in there.
The third column
works. There we go. It's working. Yay. And then the first way that I started using it was actually to build something like this. I recreated this into here just so I can show it to you. But I wanted to have an icon next to my text that I had control over, rather than, how in Elements, sometimes you can add an icon before or after, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted a button icon. And so I have Flex here with just those two things in it. But then I kept my text down here out of the Flex, because if it's in it, then it's going to try to stick it, horizontal with the rest of the things.
Well, you can just, if you leave it in there, just, again, make that a column versus a row. So change.
So, yeah, you were going to say, let me show you a different way of doing that. So now I think I do have a better understanding of how I could do this differently, but this was how I originally did it.
Well, but the text is longer. I don't know as though I would move it.
I don't know that I need it. It could be in line with this. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, but it's gonna probably wrap. The text on the bottom is going to wrap around. I prefer the look of it like this versus what I think you're going to get if you move it up into the Flex box.
Okay, so if I were to move it,
see what happens.
What do you move it up where? Because I already did.
Move the text up into the Flex box. At least I think you should be able to.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Where is it going? It's I can do that.
Okay, now open up the Flex box.
Okay.
And now set it to column. So under direction, the second box over.
Well, but I don't want that, right? I still want my icon to be on the side. So I want my icon to be
Oh,
going
okay, you're right. You
Yeah.
would need to put another flex box inside where
my
the text is. Yeah.
Okay.
You
So
need to
if
put
I were, let me just take this out for a moment. So in my flex box, I would add like on the element level here,
yeah, add an element.
add another flex box container. And then I would put this inside of it. And then I would need to move
you
that.
want to
I need to
put
move it
both.
more.
You want to put both text elements then inside of that inner flex container.
Both of them in there. I think I gotcha. Okay. Because then I can set that one to be
Okay, now change
direction up and down. I
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I see what you mean. Like it probably looks better the other way, but this is the alternative way if this way makes sense for whatever.
Yeah, the reason why it's wrapping now is because there's probably some sort of paddings on the sides of those flex containers, maybe even some margin, because I think they standard come with right and left padding of 15 pixels and right and left margin of 16 pixels, for God's sake. I don't know why they default to 16.
If I were to get rid of as much of the padding, but then I would want to add, or no, not add, but is it this here? I could do that, but I don't necessarily want that either. I just need to add some padding. So I don't have like a, how would I add padding to just this icon and get rid of it over here?
Just open up the icon and put some top margin or top padding.
So that would be, okay. And then if I were wanting to get rid of, see, I still have more padding on that level. Okay. And then I would do top here and then maybe a little bit there. One thing that I wish I'm already running into, I wish that we could have this break down into left or right as well. Because
set it to 0, and then go maybe go to the flex container that the arrow is in, that one there, and try. You already have it justified to start, don't you? Yeah, that's a flex start already. So it should already be as far left inside of basically inside of its column as it can possibly go.
Right. I do have, that's background. So yeah, so it's just something I've noticed. I've run into that a few times where I just have noticed it might be helpful to have a separate left and right slider in some situations. But I mean, that works fine. In this situation, it's fine.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think I like the way it looked better beforehand.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things where just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. But it's an option. So there are multiple ways to accomplish the idea that you have in your head, which before it was, unless you knew how to do it with code and you even knew it was a possibility, you were like, well, I can't do it that way. We have to design the page differently.
But now go to the lower text element and click on it and open it up. And now on there, set more right and left. I just want to see here. No, just set more right and left padding.
Oh, right. More left and right padding.
Yeah. So squish it together and now center justify it. I was just trying to see, you squish it down. No, not in the flex. Go down where you would normally do it. Just scroll down on the.
There we go. Gotcha.
There you go. And so you could do something like that too, skinny up, because in 1.0 they didn't have padding like that on particular elements. All you had was top margin.
Oh my gosh, padding.
Whereas every element now has top, bottom, left, and right padding too.
It's awesome.
So the micro granularity that they're giving us here, but again, it also is. It's just increases the level of complexity.
Right. We don't have a Pinto anymore. This is a Ferrari. It's just,
As I'm pointing out something I've noticed, when you're adding a lot of padding, it doesn't take an account to how it's going to look on mobile at this time. So on all my stuff, I haven't really been able to take advantage of that. I remove all of the padding that I can. Where was that at? So this here, like you gotta, if you add padding, that's not what I wanted. Where did I just add that to this? It was the element. Was it? I thought it was this one. Was it not? Yeah, it's that one.
And the other thing is then when you're in mobile now, so open up the Flex container now that you're in mobile.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would so love to keep geeking out with you guys, but I got to peel off.
Okay.
But big announcement: Funnel Hacking Live 2.0 next week. 2.0 sightings. If you guys love 2.0 and you want to like even do a quick like, hey, let's powwow on the side and let's go live and let's talk about it. Like we are so in. So and yes, we'll do dailies and all the good stuff. So anyway,
yes. I think I'm going to make a post in this group and pin it to the top, and we can just post everything related to that next week on that post. You'll have a place to do it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Cool. And again, I'm not meaning to cut you guys short because I love your geek out.
You're good. We're going to wrap it up soon anyway.
Okay. Cool.
Bye.
Right. Bye, guys.
All right. We will keep hanging out for a few more minutes, though, Dan and I. Let me jump back to here because you were going to tell me go to the Flex container. So I'm in the Flex container, the outer one.
And then there, set that to column.
Set it to what?
Columns right there, Flex direction, column, second one. Yeah.
So that looks pretty decent.
Yeah, if that's what you want it to look like. Because you could keep them side by side as we know, but I don't know if it looked that good.
Right. No, I don't think it looked good on mobile at all. But then you'd have to add that query thing, the mobile. Oh no, wait. It kept it.
No, remember, that's what we were talking about earlier, is that's the beauty of this, is inside the Flex container, depending on what you click at the top there, whether it's mobile or desktop, you could set what it looks like independent. So you could
My mind did not grasp that until now.
You can set your desktop settings and you can set your mobile settings, and they're different.
That's huge. So you don't need to you don't need to set the, okay, I get it. I think everyone in the chat was in on the conversation. I was not, because you guys were talking about breakpoints. And so we can set it for mobile and we can set it for desktop. We just can't set it that way in between. You'd have to go use media queries for all the other sizes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You got basically two sizes inside of ClickFunnels.
Awesome. Okay, I was worried. I was like, well, that's cool, but then you still have to like duplicate everything and have mobile only versions of it. But we don't.
No, again, that's another reason why I was saying is I may just be building totally inside of it. And then the other thing too is if you're still not able to quite get it looking exactly right, remember you can still use elements that only show on mobile and elements that only show on desktop.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, this isn't, I don't like the way I like the way the text is showing inside of the inner Flex container on desktop, but on mobile, it just isn't working right. So I'm going to make a mobile only version, pull that out of the Flex container, and then just have it sitting there independent of itself. It wouldn't even have to be in any of the Flex containers at that point. It could just be like hanging out down below. So in this case here, you could make a mobile version and put it down so it would be like under where the button is. So you could have the red text, the red button, and then another line of text below it just by making one desktop and one mobile.
So if I were to add another element right here, is that what you're saying?
I would go back to desktop. I guess I wasn't
quite following what you were saying.
Okay,
But
so what you want to do is outside of the kind of get a little high there.
So not everything that you change on mobile is only on mobile.
Well, go back to the mobile. Go click on the mobile up at the top again. Well, I'm sorry, you got to go into the Flex container.
Okay.
Because again, this is always inside a Flex container. See, where is the top?
Oh, right here.
Yeah,
okay, I thought you meant interviews.
Versus those two images. Okay.
Gotcha.
I don't know if those two images control. I don't think they control the padding. I think that is just 100% for the Flex container, whether it's mobile or desktop. Is just totally for the Flex container.
It's just
So if you go back into desktop, I'll show you what I was talking about.
Okay.
So let's say we don't like that the second line of text. We don't like the way that looks inside of the mobile. So what we want to do is we want to clone that line of text. And now you want to pull it outside of the Flex container. So it's actually double nested into 2 Flex containers. You may have to drop it into like another, like up by the other paragraph or something.
Yeah, 2.0 is having a little bit issues of indicating where you're actually dragging stuff at the moment.
Yeah, it's not showing up the orange line today, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So now you want to take that and try to get it outside of the outer Flex container.
Outside of this one.
Yes.
So below this one.
Okay, well, actually, that's not going to work because we got the background color. No, it will work because you already have a white color on it. So see if you can drop that right down below that Flex container. So just right there, drop it.
Oh, it went inside. Okay, I have an idea. 1 second. And I just add that. And then I can drag this there, and then I can delete this. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is outside that Flex container.
Right. So now set the one inside to desktop only and the one outside to mobile only, and then you can independently work with that second one for mobile.
Okay. And then stick this one back in.
Well, no, my thought is that you could, if you wanted to, then change the order of these things. So you'd have the red text, the button, and then the black text on your mobile device. I'm just throwing out.
We're just playing around. Yeah, I totally get it. One way might not. Yeah, it may not be the right option for this situation, but it's good to know, like, think outside the box. Think inside the box and outside the box.
Yeah. One thing you could do that would be even cooler then is increase the width of the text on the left-hand side, drop that below the image, and then pull it up so that the text is there, but it's wider.
So, yeah, basically my takeaway is that there's a lot you can do with it. I think we probably still just scratched the surface today on what the possibilities are.
Oh, yeah.
And bottom line is you just got to go in and start experimenting and playing with it. And maybe if that's intimidating and you don't have time for that either, like who was it in the comments said, when you have a design that you want to do and it's challenging and you're like, I don't know how to accomplish this, chances are Flex is going to help you be able to accomplish it.
Yeah. If just using the regular box model is not going to work, then you use the Flex box model.
Yeah.
That is technically what it's called in CSS.
Cool.
Yeah. And so you got your Flex containers again, you got Flex container, and then you got whatever you put inside of it, which can be another Flex container.
Yeah.
Another Flex container inside of that. And eventually you got to put in some elements, otherwise you're not going to have any text or images or anything. But it really is, it gives you infinite possibilities of what you can build. When I had built this one before, there were some guys, I dropped this onto Facebook one Saturday afternoon, I think. And I said, hey, I just built this whole thing inside of ClickFunnels, didn't use any CSS, no JavaScript, nothing. And a couple of people with big mouths start spouting off about, oh, I do that all day long inside of Kajabi. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't do that inside of Kajabi. And I don't know of anywhere else that has Flex containers. And if somebody does know of another builder who is actually using the Flexbox model and has it available to all their builders without having to do it in CSS. But even at that, to do it in CSS, you saw earlier is, wait, you couldn't even see my screen. Okay, I'd open up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't. No, never mind.
Okay.
It wasn't.
I was following you. I didn't realize you were even showing.
Yeah, no, I thought I was still sharing my screen. So I pulled up that image I had from earlier. But if you're watching the video, you've seen it already. But what was I going to say is, I was saying if there is another builder that has Flex built into it. Oh, I know. But the last part of that was, and Andrea's like, well, without having to do a whole bunch of complicated CSS. Well, I showed earlier, for the most part, it's like one line. Even if you're doing this just with CSS, and for the most part, it is one line, and that's all there is.
Yeah. It's Once you understand it. Yeah. Once
Yeah,
you
for the
even know
most
about
part,
it.
for the most part, you turn on flex. So you say property is display, the value is flex. You turn that on, and then if it's in a row and you want it to be in a column, you just say flex direction column.
Mhm.
And for the most part, 90% of the time, that just did everything you needed to do for flex. But by
Yeah.
having them build it in now and be able to go in there and just start click, 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 and the fact that you can set mobile independent of desktop.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that, I mean, first off, Flex is a game changer. But when I saw you can set them independent without any CSS, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, that's like news to me of the last 5 minutes. That's
Yeah.
exciting. I was showing like what I was clicking around on my screen because I wanted to just point something else out. Certain pages that you are creating in ClickFunnels 2.0, and I don't know this. I think I may have started from scratch on this page, so I don't know what is determining what I have. You know, in 1.0, you can choose the type of page you're about to build and it gives you certain features and it doesn't give you certain features. That's kind of happening in 2.0 a little bit because I created this blog post template and I was trying to get my social icons on here. And I was like, I can just add a Flex container here, but there is no Flex container showing up for me in this menu. I even tried searching Flex and it doesn't pull it up at all. Because you can see like there's actually, hold on, let me go to, yeah, no, I've looked at everything.
Yeah, just type Flex in the search at the top.
Yeah, I've done that. And so it's not, oh, there it is. Okay, what just
Liar.
happened? Was it because it started me
It
out
could
on a
be.
different
Yeah,
spot?
I think because you were
Okay, so
Flex.
keep that in mind then, because the system knows that this is a blog page right now because probably because I've assigned it as that. It's skipping my general section here. But yesterday, and I have a witness, and you guys can go watch my stream into the group yesterday. I was trying to do this, and I was typing in Flex, and it was not finding it. So yeah, see there. So I guess you have to click Show All Elements, and then you can do it. So what I did was I used a navigation because I knew that we could put images in. We discovered that the other day, Dan.
Oh yeah, that's
And
right.
so I just put in images and I have it in a navigation element. I'm like, I'm
Oh,
gonna figure this out.
Again, that's not a bad use, and yeah, I mean that's even simpler if you really think about it. You don't even have to bother putting in a flex box. You grab a navigation element, you put in your 3 icons right there. It's already got built-in ability just to drop the link right on it. So that's even actually simpler.
I mean, yeah, but then I had to go and get images. I had to drop images rather than here.
Oh, okay.
I can just grab, I
I
can just grab my icons, put in my 2 icons like I do down here, find my Facebook one, find my YouTube one. I don't have to go and find my images and then upload my images. So
I
would still say this is the easier way, but it was not working for me. So that was my workaround. So there's more than one way to accomplish what you're trying to do.
And now that you say all that, now I'm thinking, now my brain, of course, is going to, well, the fonts actually, or the icons, I should say, are actually font awesome fonts. So they're treated like fonts. So I'm wondering now, could we even, in the navigation element, go into the text and actually put in the font code and have that work? But I haven't tested it. So if somebody wants to do that on your free time, just go right ahead.
Test out the things. Let us know what you're discovering.
But again, once those icons like that, you could just go to Google it and just grab one. Not that you're condoning doing that, but if you want to.
Well, I walked through the whole process yesterday when I was going through it. I was like, and then I'm going to open up Canva and I'm going to find my icons. And then I'm going to go to Affinity and crop them so that and change the colors. And I was doing all the things. So
you couldn't change the colors in Canva?
Oh no, I changed the colors in Canva and then I cropped them, and because I have this, I don't know what it's called in Canva, like a document that I just always have, and it's always set to 1920 by, what is it, 1080 or whatever the dimensions are.
Yeah.
And it's if I need an image, I go and I dump it in there and then I save it and then I go and crop it somewhere else, so I don't have to guess what size I need to have in Canva. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have a process.
1920 would be a little bit bigger for that.
But that's usually I'm using it to create backgrounds. So I use that size.
Right. And then, that's the right dimension.
And then I open it in Infinity and then I save it to the size that I need it to be. There's a whole process.
I found something the other day. I just Googled resize image, and there's like a site is called resizeimage.com, and you just drop whatever you want in there. And in this case here, I needed an image that was 512 pixels. So I just 512, click, download, done.
Yeah. One other thing that I've noticed in 2.0, that there is still a file size max limit. It's 3 gigabytes, 3 megabytes, 3 megabytes.
For images or what?
For any file. Megabytes, right? Gigabytes would be huge. It's gotta be megabytes. Because I was trying to upload a PDF, and you know how sometimes people have really graphical PDFs and they're like giant. They're like print quality. So I had to go and compress it before I could upload it. So just also be aware that that's there too.
Where were you? Share your screen again. Where were you uploading a PDF?
In the files.
Okay, there's a file section. So
and I will be honest, it didn't actually end up working, so I ended up uploading it to 1.0 anyway. I'm just hosting it in 1.0. I was able to upload it, but I don't know, when I was grabbing the link, it was asking me to log in, like clicking on it, it was asking me to log in. So it wasn't really a shareable link that I was able to grab. It was more of an internal link. So I'm not sure if I just missed where I need to grab the correct link or what, but
yeah, you're probably going to have to, you probably can't even just grab a link. What you have to do is you're going to have to download it onto your hard drive before you can upload it into the files. It has to be a physical
that's what I
file
did.
on your computer. So even after you downloaded it onto your computer, it was still protected? You had to log in?
Logging it after I uploaded it to 2.0, and then I put the link that I thought was the right link into an email, and then I was testing the email and I clicked on the link and it took me to where it should have just opened the PDF so I could save it. But it took me to it was either an error page or a login page, but it didn't work. So
yeah, was it trying to have you log back into ClickFunnels, do you think?
Yes.
If so, okay, that's just a glitch then.
Okay.
Again,
So
everyone who's still watching here, it's in beta.
Beta. You can't always do everything yet.
It's a poor little baby that still is in its diapers, and it needs a lot of love and care at this point.
Yes. Okay. All right. We're going to sign off. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is the longest stream I think we've done yet. Thank you, Dan, so much for sharing your flex knowledge, flexing your flex knowledge.
Yes.
And I think we'll keep you guys updated next week. All right. Thank you, Dan. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
Bye-bye.